Hello YouTube and welcome to another video. I already shot an intro for this one, but some unexpected things happened along the way, so I thought I would shoot another intro and tell you guys to make sure you stick around to the end, or at least skip to the end so you find out some details. I also shot a bit of a quirky outro just for fun, so you're going to want to see that. Anyway, let's get right into it. If you watched my last one, you will have seen that I had some problems with the X2. In this video, we're probably not going to do any riding because I'm going to dig into it and see what the problem is. I'm assuming that it's probably not good. Let's get into it. I've removed the spark plugs and I'm going to do a compression test. We'll start with the front cylinder, see what it says. 130 psi. Which, if I remember correctly, is quite low. Let's check the back one and see what it says. I thought it was up around 170, 175. I'd have to check video footage to remember. I'm very bad with numbers. 175 on the front cylinder. Rear cylinder, also 175. Fantastic. Okay, let's check the back cylinder. 155 on the back and 130 on the front, so we've got a problem. Inside of my brain there's something that's hoping that maybe it's just a bad head gasket based on the way that it shut down. I know what it is. I know what it is already. Pull the air filter off. I should get a bucket for parts because I know this isn't going to be a 5-minute job. Alright, I've got my parts bin. I'm going to remove the carburetor because that gets the cables and stuff out of the way. This carburetor and its two brothers were donated by Hi-U. I don't really know what it is, but based on experience and the way that the engine stopped, I'm gonna guess that it was probably what they call cold seizure. So there's really cold water going through the engine, and that causes the cylinder to shrink, and the piston gets really hot because it's working hard and it expands, and you basically lose clearance because just of the temperature. So they call that a cold seizure. It's either that, or I'm not going to completely rule out erosion from detonation. So the top of the piston could be caved in a little bit, or the exhaust side could be eroded away. Today's Tuesday, October 3rd, and the sucky thing about it being a Tuesday is that means I very likely will not have the parts that I need to get this going for the weekend or for early next week. I might though. I really don't like taking this head off because that means I'm going to ruin a head gasket. And that's just how cheap I am. It's probably going to cost me a couple $100 for pistons. And here I am worried about a $20 head gasket. You ever try to say something and you think that you're going to say it in way too many words, so you try to simplify it, and you end up saying something that you didn't mean at all? Is the head going to come off easy or with great difficulty? Leave your guess in the comments below. Easy would be if I could do it with my hands. Oh, it's the easy one. I'm going to disconnect the battery before I do something really bad, because the last thing I need to do is burn a big chunk out of my head by shorting it out. All right, battery disconnected. That took all of 30 seconds. I'm gonna wanna inspect the head anyway, so I might as well pull the coolant line completely off. And then I can take the head right out. All right, am I gonna see damage to the cylinder head? Place your bets in the comments below. Get the wires out of the way. There's not any major damage to the head. There's some tiny detonation marks, erosion marks along here. Actually around the whole thing, almost. But yeah, looks okay. Definitely not catastrophic. Oh man, I got so close to blowing up. Holy crap. Moved. If you see this discoloration here, that's actually eroded material off of the top of my piston, and the top of the piston is actually slightly caved in. Probably can't be picked up on camera, but yeah, I came really close to blowing this thing up. All right, so how do I explain this one? For those of you who watched the video where it was a choose your own adventure, if you were to choose the option for me fixing my ski and then go out riding, in that option, my throttle ended up sticking open and I drove for about 5 minutes at wide open throttle. So this damage, most of that may have occurred during that time. It's probably a stuck ring, partially. There's probably some cold seizure marks on the piston. But anyway, let's continue taking this apart. All right, I just removed the surf brace. I am now going to remove the exhaust system. And I don't think I'm gonna film all that because, yeah, I've already done this several times. Glue sure does bite on there. All right, YouTube, so I found what the problem is. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly why it happened yet, but we have what they call a collapsed ringland. So hopefully the camera can pick that up. There is nothing between the top ring and the bottom ring. There is piston missing. It was kind of pointless looking in there because I was going to have to pull the cylinder off anyway, but it's kind of interesting. It could indicate that there was just a lot of cylinder pressure. The ringland didn't... yeah, anyway, let's just get in there and stop speculating. But typically ringlands give way either because of heat or pressure. There was a lot of heat on the top of the piston, so it probably got weakened and then gave way from the pressure. But let's just pull the cylinder off and look in there. All right, YouTube, I've removed the nuts and I'm just pulling the cylinder off. That piston is really looking pretty nasty, but it looks like I also got very lucky. Zero damage to the cylinder as far as I can tell so far. Absolutely no damage to the cylinder. The piston gave way around the exhaust, which means the parts would have went out the exhaust and didn't go down into my base and wreck anything. I'm going to take a quick look at the cylinder again around the exhaust area and yeah, see if I see any damage there. Well, it looks like absolutely zero damage around the exhaust port, so nothing caught up on its way out. The parts all made it very cleanly out through the ports without damaging anything on their way. According to what I'm seeing here, I got off really lucky. I'm just gonna have to get myself a new piston. I'll pull this out and give you guys a closer look at it on the bench. Okay, so I was like, I might as well take the other piston off because I'm not just gonna replace one piston. I go to take this one off and I get looking at it a little bit closer. And it's completely missing the ringland as well. When you're demanding this much out of your pistons, it's probably a good idea to use Wiseco pistons. This one hasn't started to collapse. There wasn't a huge amount of heat in it. It broke because the combustion pressures were too high. This is how hard I'm pushing my engine. The ringland collapsed from pressure. So there's so much combustion pressure in there that it actually broke the piston. You don't see that very often. Generally, when you see this, it would be a turbocharged engine. Also, for those of you who are concerned about lubrication, I've had a couple of people comment and say that they mix theirs 40-to-1. I mix mine at 50-to-1, and I was actually considering going to 60-to-1, but the mixing ratios are just easier to do it at 50-to-1. Basically, the engine is an air pump, and when it pumps air through the engine, it displaces a certain amount of oil. You have to, this is a grossly simplified explanation, of course, but you have to keep adding oil at the same rate that you're taking it away, or you get a shortage of oil. If you add more oil than is going away, either through burning or getting pushed out the exhaust, then you end up with too much oil. If you look at my piston skirt here, you can see very clean looking, healthy looking two-stroke oil. All of the parts are nicely coated. It actually has a little bit too much oil, but you're safer on the side of too much than not enough. So anyone who was concerned about my oil ratio, that should put your mind at ease. All right, YouTube, I'm going to get into piston diagnosis. This is probably going to be a little bit controversial, but I know what I'm talking about, so sit down and shut up. A lot of people would probably look at these pistons, see that there was some detonation on here, and jump to the conclusion that this piston got hot, that caused it to get weak, and the ringland collapsed because of that. I wouldn't make fun of you for thinking that, but when we look at the other piston, it tells a very different story. So, this piston, no detonation mark, no signs of heat, no other damage, but yet the ringland, where are we here? The ringland has collapsed. No major signs of heat underneath, no major signs of heat on top, no major scuffing, no damage to the piston otherwise. So what caused this to happen? Cylinder pressure. So when the engine fires, most of the pressure is on the top of the piston, but you do actually have quite a substantial amount of force on the rings themselves, and that's because they're trying to seal the pressure from leaking by. The bottom ring is supported by the whole piston except around these edges here, but there's still quite a substantial amount of material there. But the top ring, which takes most of the load, is actually only supported by this thin piece of aluminum here. When the engine fires, every time it fires, this ring is getting pushed down into the ringland. So by looking at this piston, we can tell a couple of things. One is that the piston actually broke from pressure and not from heat. We can tell that because there are no other signs of heat on the piston. There are no major scuff marks. There is no detonation marks. And the other thing that we can tell is that this piston was actually broken for quite a long time. And the reason why we know that is because this is shiny. When you look in there, you can see the piece of piston that broke off has actually polished the piston in that area. When we look at the mag side piston, we can actually see that it's quite black and sooty and it's rough. It's not a polished surface. There are a few things that we can't know by looking at these pistons, but what we can tell is very likely what happened. Both of these ring lands broke around the same time because of pressure. This one, because it was a little bit smaller, the piece that broke was smaller, it fell out very quickly. So it might have fell out as soon as it cracked. This one, however, because of where it broke, you can actually see it broke more off to the side. It was trapped in, and because it was trapped in, it moved around for quite a while and actually polished the inner surface of the piston. And then it fell out. So very likely these pieces of piston are in my water box. Alright YouTube, I got a huge mess going on here. On Monday I took my jet ski out and rode it and had some engine issues. Tuesday I hauled it apart and found out that I had some damaged pistons. Wednesday I ordered the pistons. It is now Thursday evening. The pistons have arrived and I am pulling studs out of the cylinder so that I can have the cylinder bored out. And even though the cylinder wasn't damaged, I'm getting it bored out because I got myself some Wiseco pistons. I wanted some forged pistons because the cast ones obviously can't stand up to this kind of abuse. And so a forged piston requires more clearance than a cast one. So the clearance wouldn't have been proper if I would have just ordered 77mm pistons. So these come stock bore 76. I had it bored out 1mm, but I did that myself on my mill, which is a crappy mill, and I did a crappy job of it. Given the circumstances, it turned out pretty well, but yeah, let's be honest. You're not supposed to do that on a milling machine with a boring head. So what I'm going to do is send off this cylinder, get it bored out properly, and then I'll have a nice fresh bore with some Wiseco pistons, and that'll give me a good starting point. I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that this will be done fairly quickly and I'll still get some rides in this year. Alright. I will get back to you guys when I have some freshly bored cylinders.
Hello everyone and welcome to Jet Skis Anonymous. We have a new member today. Everyone say hello to Joe Arsenal. Is it Joe? Is it Joe Arsenal?
My name's Joel Arsenal.
Hi, Joel!
Hey Joel! Hello Joel!
Everybody, Joel's new to the group and he was sent here because his family's concerned about him.
Yeah, my family's worried about me. It's not a big deal. Look. I mean, I like to jet ski. What's the problem?
Your family says that you refuse to put away your jet ski even in November.
Well, yeah, I mean, the water's not frozen. I can still drive my jet ski in it.
Joel, do you realize that most other people have their jet skis put away, winterized, and are starting to think about more important things like Christmas and family?
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about Christmas. I have all my gifts bought. It's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal.
But Joel, if it's not such a big deal, what are you playing with in your pocket?
Nothing. Nothing. Which pocket?
Your left pocket, Joel.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You were just playing with something.
It's just a piston. Look, it's just...
And what's the piston from, Joel?
It's from my jet ski, but I mean, I just like carrying it. It reminds me of my jet ski, that's all. It's not a big deal.
Your family's really worried about you and your health. We think that you could do better things with your time if you really focused your mind.
I'm focused. I'm completely focused. Look, it's not a big deal. I've got a jet ski. I do some work to it every now and then. I ride every now and then. It's not a big deal.
What were you doing last night, Joel? What were you doing at 2 a.m.?
Look, it's not a big deal. I went out into the garage to shoot an intro and outro for my video, just so that people would know that maybe I wasn't going to be on schedule with my videos because, well, obviously my engine has problems. Hello? Hello? My engine has problems. I can't just leave people hanging. So I go out in my garage, I'm shooting an intro, shooting an outro, and then I realize that I haven't looked closely at my head gasket. So then I noticed that my head gasket has some damage to it and that my head's been leaking. And so then I remember an old video where I told everybody that if the head gasket leaked, that I would do something about it and maybe put an O-ring in there. So I put my head in my mill and I machined it down and I started to machine in an O-ring groove. It's not a big deal. I mean, everybody does stuff like that.
Well, Joel, you know, other people do videos too, but they don't do it till 2 in the morning, and yeah, I think you really need to admit that you have a problem.
You know what? You know what? I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm done with this. I'm not an addict. I'm gonna go talk to people who support me, okay? I'm gonna go to a community of people who support me in my videos and are, you know, people who appreciate what I do. I'm done with this. I'm done with this. I'm out of here. Hey guys! 2:26 a.m. I am shooting the intro and outro for this video. So, yeah. Anyway, you guys heard it right. The jet ski head was leaking. Where is the head gasket? Here is the head gasket, and you can see the burn marks between the combustion area and the water jackets. So this head gasket was very clearly leaking. I put my head on my mill and I'm working on it. Not going exactly to plan because I don't have the exact right tools for doing the job, but I'm making it work. I'm crossing my fingers. I do have a backup plan. That video will be out soon. I don't have the cylinders back for my jet ski yet, so I'm not sure when I'm going to get it back together. I'm not sure when my next ride is going to be. Really hoping to get back out before the lakes start freezing up because, well, jet skiing on ice just doesn't work very well. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I hope you enjoyed that little skit. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.